I thank the Minister for that answer. We know from the latest numbers available that between September 21 and September 22, only close to 1,400 people were resettled to the UK through the specific safe routes of resettlement. These numbers are 75% lower than in 2019, and also the number of family reunion visas issued was also 36% below pre-pandemic. As the Minister knows, all the countries in my question have an asylum grant rate of over 80%, with Afghanistan, Syria and Eritrea sitting at over 97%. The number of individuals claiming asylum from these nations stood at over 26,500. Could the government, now that the government is deciding admissibility on the basis of arrival, will the government establish further safe routes for high grant rate countries such as Sudan, Eritrea, Syria and Iran to reduce the need for asylum seekers to travel irregularly?
The principle is clear in the Refugee Convention that people claiming asylum need to be in the country in which they seek refuge, having come directly from that country. And whilst we sympathise with people in many difficult situations around the world, we're not bound to consider asylum claims from the large numbers of people overseas who might like to come here.
We learnt from the Home Secretary and her team giving evidence to the Select Committee on Home Affairs that a hypothetical 16-year-old orphan from an African country such as Sudan or Eritrea, fleeing from war and religious persecution, with siblings legally in the United Kingdom, has no safe or legal route to seek refuge in the United Kingdom. Why has this happened?
As the Noble Lord will have heard in my recent answer, the principle is that you claim asylum in the first safe country that you reach. The answer to the question that Mr. Lawton posed at the Home Affairs Select Committee is answered like this. Depending on the country you're from, you could engage with the UNHCR. That would be a way of getting leave to enter the UK in order to put in an asylum claim. But clearly there are some countries where that wouldn't be possible.
I'm disappointed with the Minister's negative reply. If we take one country alone, Afghanistan, has the Minister forgotten, have the government forgotten, that thousands upon thousands of Afghans in the 40 years of war sided and fought for Britain there? Why are they neglecting them now and going back on their earlier promises?
The government certainly haven't forgotten the people of Afghanistan, as the Noble Lord will remember. Operation Pitting was the largest UK military evacuation since the Second World War, during which we evacuated about 15,000 individuals to the UK. And in the years since the evacuation began on the 14th of August 2021, a further 6,000 have arrived in the UK via neighbouring countries.
The Noble Lord, the Minister.
About the importance of addressing the Right Reverend Prelate's question about safe and legal routes. Doesn't he accept that with the UNHCR that he's just referenced, saying that there are now between 75 and 80 million people displaced in the world, that this is a global problem that requires international solutions? And shouldn't the government be leading the way in drawing together countries to look at the root causes that create the displacement in the first place, and to try and stop these terrible, perilous journeys, whether in small boats across the Channel, across the Aegean or the Mediterranean, but leaving a trail of sorrow behind them?
There is much in what the Noble Lord says. It is sadly the truth that we cannot help everyone with worldwide displacement, now standing at around about 100 million, not merely 70 million, as the Noble Lord suggested. The government continues to offer safe and legal routes for those in need of protection. Since 2015, we've resettled over 28,000 refugees from regions of conflict and instability, and we've done this through the Global UK Resettlement Scheme, community sponsorship, the mandate schemes, under which the UNHCR will refer the most vulnerable refugees from across the globe for resettlement to the UK.
outcome of Operation Pitting, it did leave behind people that should have been included. Does the government still remain committed to helping the families of interpreters who worked for British military personnel and political leaders visiting the country, including the former Prime Minister, who were unable to get out and who remain in terrible danger in Afghanistan?
The answer to the Noble Viscount's question is yes. The Afghan Relocations and Assistance Policy, launched on the 1st of April 2021, offers relocation to eligible Afghan citizens who worked for or with the United Kingdom government locally in Afghanistan. The ARAP recognises the service of eligible Afghan citizens and the risks arising to them and their dependent family members as a result of their work.
The Minister perhaps tell the House what provision in the Refugee Convention permits us to refuse to even consider someone who arrives on our shores seeking asylum. What is the provision in the Refugee Convention that permits that?
The provision is Article 31(1).
The asylum system is in chaos. 140,000 asylum seekers are waiting for initial decision and rising, 90,000 waiting for over 6 months, more than 40,000 between 1 and 3 years. It is also reported that 725 claimants, of which 155 are children, have been waiting over 5 years. How many of these cases apply to these 5 countries? And will the Noble Lord the Minister join the Prime Minister in promising to clear the asylum backlog by the end of the year? It's action we need, not gimmicks.
The Noble Lord is entirely right. It is action we need, and I can certainly recommit to the ambitions outlined by the Prime Minister in his statement to clear the backlog. As to the statistics, as to the various countries within the backlog, those statistics exist, but I'm afraid I don't have them to hand, so I'll need to write to him in relation to it.
My Lord, can the Minister say something about the government scheme for allowing applications from applicants in Syrian refugee camps directly? Because this surely is a far better route than those refugees, those people, those who are going to go down a much more perilous route by trying to come here illegally.
I entirely agree with my noble friend, and clearly that is the purpose of the UK resettlement scheme. Perhaps it would assist if I outlined that between 2015 and September 2022, we've offered a place to nearly 450,000 men, women and children seeking entry via safe and legal routes, including those from Syria, but also those from Afghanistan, Ukraine and Hong Kong, as well as the family members of refugees.
When the folk arrive here and they're given the Aspire card, which was £35 a week, that was their subsistence, has that gone up with inflation? What is its value now? Is it still 35, or as it was 10 or 15 years ago, or has it gone up from that sum?
Certainly, I can provide information, detailed information, as to the asylum support provisions. Clearly, those in hotels have their accommodation provided for them and are provided with food and a small amount of money for expenditure on essentials. And those in dispersal accommodation do receive a financial sum, and that sum has changed with inflation, and I will be able to provide the precise statistics to him by letter. I'm afraid it's quite a long way from the topic of the question.
My Lord. The UK says that the asylum seekers must go to the first safe country. The United Nations Commissioner for Human Rights says that is incorrect. Would the Minister like to comment?
The government's position is clear that the requirement of Article 31 is that a person comes directly to the first safe country and they're therefore obliged to claim in that first safe country. And indeed, it's upon that principle that the European Union agreed the Dublin provisions about the return of asylum seekers to places where they made their first claim.
Second oral question, Baroness Lister of Burterset.
I beg leave